Welcome to our second local meeting for 2021 in the sport of softball. Special thanks this week to Tom Hathaway and Chick Ludwig, as well as all members of the Blue Chip Umpires in Cincinnati for providing this session. Many of you will recognize Chick as the radio host of 700 WLW Sports Talk. We have three topics on our agenda this week. First, we've had many requests to again review the 2021 rules modifications that have come into effect because of the health crisis. So we'll do that first. I would ask that if you have any questions concerning those modifications, please email them to me at swdoc@fuse.net. We'll cover those questions in an upcoming local meeting. Then we're going to go into the topic of starting and ending games. This is an important one because it's the area where OHSAA gets some of the most questions during the course of a season, especially on a rainy day. How does a game end? When is it suspended? When is it complete? And lastly, we're going to talk about another important topic, which is positioning and umpiring. The importance of getting a good angle at the proper distance and an unobstructed view. Again, thanks to all of our presenters, and in the coming weeks we'll hear from more presenters around Ohio. And again, if you have questions concerning the rules modifications for 2021, please email them this week to me at swdoc@fuse.net. That will allow us to have another presentation covering answers to all the questions. Thanks very much and have a great week. As we go through these rules modifications, I want to start out by saying that although these are temporary changes to the rules for the coming season, the enforcement of penalties is generally not the responsibility of the umpire. You need to know these modifications because some of them affect how you umpire the ball game, and others are your responsibility. Please pay close attention to that and remember that many of these items are not your responsibility to enforce, nor is there any penalty that has been attached.
Our first change relates to game balls. Each team will provide game balls for use while they are on defense. A minimum of 3 balls will be handed to the plate umpire at the beginning of each half inning. When a ball goes out of play, the defense is responsible for retrieving the ball and providing another game ball to the plate umpire. At the end of the half inning, the pitcher takes the game ball with her to the dugout, and the catcher shall take all other balls from the home plate umpire to the dugout. All balls must meet all requirements and be in new or good condition. Obviously, the condition of balls, the number of balls may vary a little bit depending on the level of play and the budget. Players and coaches should use their own equipment whenever possible. If equipment must be shared, it must be sanitized between users. It's also recommended that each team have an equipment handler to remove bats and helmets from the field of play. This person may wear gloves and sanitize equipment after each use. Personal items like water bottles, towels should have proper separation and not be shared. Certainly the same applies to face coverings. Players shall use their own personal water or beverage bottles only, no sharing. It's recommended that sunflower seeds, gum, and similar products be prohibited in the confines of the field. And player and team equipment must be sanitized before and after each practice or game. Plastic face shields may not be used unless they're the type that has been permitted in the past, one that's integrated into a face mask and attached to a helmet. Cloth face coverings for players are recommended but not required while on the field of play. If they are worn on the field, face coverings can be of any color or number of colors as long as they're not the color of the ball and not distracting. Gaiters are permitted as face coverings. Face coverings must be worn when not participating, so this means they need to be worn at all times in the dugout or bench area and there are no color or design restrictions in that area. Pre-game conferences are also going to look a little different this year. Only the head coach from each team plus the umpires participate in the pre-game conference. The coaches should stay outside the width of the batters' boxes, maintaining well over 6 feet of distance between each person. Everyone attending this meeting must wear a face covering. At this meeting, lineups will be handed to the plate umpire. The umpire will verbally approve or ask any questions about the lineup. It's recommended the lineups be exchanged team to team electronically via photo or text. The verbal exchanges needed to report substitutions and announce substitutions need to be made from a good social distance of at least 6 feet. Some additional responsibilities for coaches. First of all, coaches must certify that everyone's legally equipped, all equipment complies with the playing rules, these modifications, and health department orders. Coaches must wear face coverings at all times. This is before the game, during the game, after the game. Umpires will not handle equipment on the field of play. Coaches who need to discuss a rule or ruling on the playing field must maintain 6 feet of physical distance from the umpire. Base coaches must stay 6 feet from all runners at all times. Our first bullet point on bench and field conduct is not so much a rules modification but a point of emphasis. Players are not permitted to leave the dugout to congratulate scoring runners or after home runs. This has always been a violation of Rule 366, and it's something that we're going to have to abide by very carefully this year. The number of people in the dugout is dependent obviously on the size of the dugout. Players and coaches must maintain social distance in the dugout. Federation rules allow for the dugouts or designated warm-up areas to be extended to provide for social distancing. If needed, these areas should be clearly marked and located beyond the end of the dugout furthest from home plate. One of the hardest things to get used to in these times is not touching each other, and the no-touch rule is going to be a tough one for everybody to get used to. Players and everyone need to refrain from high fives, handshakes, other contact with teammates, opponents, coaches, umpires, and fans. At the end of the game, a tip of the cap or other non-contact gesture can be used in lieu of the handshake line. When we have a charged defensive conference, there will only be one coach permitted. Coaches holding these conferences must stay on the plate side of the circle, and the player or players and other players involved in the conference must be on the opposite side of the circle, maintaining 6 feet social distancing. When a coach visits the pitchers, all other players should stay outside the circle, and all team huddles without physical distancing are prohibited. There's going to be some minor changes in the pitching rule. First of all, the pitcher is not permitted to lick her fingers and wipe them off. Pitchers are also not allowed to put their hands to their mouths or blow into their hands prior to pitching. If this happens, the umpire will call the ball dead immediately, and it's no pitch. Any umpire should make this call. Our goal here is not to penalize a pitcher for what she might have done that was illegal in the past but is illegal now. So there's no additional penalty. It's simply no pitch, and we will replace the ball. The pitcher will sanitize her hands and play will continue. In addition, a pitcher using a rosin bag or other drying agent shall take that item to the dugout at the end of each half inning. There'll be no sharing of those items. We'll also have some changes to umpire mechanics. First of all, the plate umpire should allow adequate distance behind the catcher while still being able to perform his or her duty. This means that you'll have to determine, based on the situation, how far back you can be and still do your job. For umpires, cloth facial coverings are recommended but not required while on the field of play. If worn, we want them to be of one color, not distracting and without designs. Prior to the game and after the game, umpires must wear a face covering. So you wear it from when you leave your car onto the field for the pregame conference and remove it prior to the game if you wish, or you can leave it on. Umpires can also wear disposable gloves and face masks. Face coverings are not required for umpires between innings. A properly positioned umpire will not be near anyone else. Please keep in mind, though, that you should always put a facial covering on if having a conversation with any person, whether it's between innings or at any other time. Lastly, whenever an umpire either dusts the plate umpire dusts the plate, or a base umpire dusts the pitcher's plate, we want you to make sure that we ask the players involved, whether at the plate, the catcher and batter, at the pitcher's plate, fielders, including the pitcher and others, make sure that they step 6 feet away prior to your dusting off either plate. The base umpires should also maintain a 6 feet position from any player in all of their initial positions, so that may result in a slight adjustment at times. In my last couple slides on this topic, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit because these things are important. First of all, umpires, please note that for nearly all of these modifications, there are no penalties. For example, we don't call a runner out for high-fiving another player, or for a base coach being too close. We don't call a batter out because she used a bat that might not have been sanitized. It's coaches and schools that are responsible to ensure that these safety regulations are followed. And it's likely that there will be observers at the games to ensure that this happens. Please work with the schools, the coaches, and if necessary, remind people of the regulations. But remember, there are virtually no penalties associated in the game of softball with any of these violations. A few very important closing comments about these modifications. First of all, remember that they're published in our White Book supplement, so you'll be able to find them there. Second, be prepared to be flexible. There's going to be changes to these, maybe even before the season starts, maybe during the season. Day to day, week to week, be prepared for changes. Be aware of those changes. Let's all work together to make sure that we have a season. Our goal in making these modifications is not to attach penalties for what's been changed. We don't want to penalize kids for doing something that they've done for years and has been perfectly legal. So remind players and coaches of the new requirements when you have to. If an issue persists, such as players excessively touching each other, high-fiving each other, use a special report to notify the school administration and the OHSAA so that the proper parties can address that with those involved. Please help us with this, and we want to make sure that it's a great season for everybody.
Hello and welcome to the Ohio High School Athletic Association softball local rules presentation regarding the starting and ending games procedure for the 2021 season. The OHSAA and local rules interpreters probably get more questions during the season about this topic than any other. We hope this presentation helps promote understanding of these rules. I'm Chick Ludwig, sports talk show host at 700 WLW Radio and a fellow umpire with the Blue Chip Association of Cincinnati. Tom Hathaway prepared and authors this presentation. The crux of this presentation will be on the content of Rule 4 of the NFHS Rulebook, plus the OHSAA rules adoptions for ending games. In addition, we will also touch upon items mentioned in Rule 10, Umpires, Rule 3, and the NFHS Umpires Manual. First of all, there are some things that umpires need to do in advance to ensure that they will be prepared to start the game. Confirm assignments with school if requested. The built-in communications of arbiter have negated the responsibility umpires once had to call the school and confirm the assignment. However, some schools send out notices asking officials to confirm their assignments. If you receive one of these, please respond appropriately. You do want to establish contact with your partner. This can be via text or email. You should confirm your arrival time. If you think you will be arriving close to game time, you should mention this. Also, confirm uniform pants color, heather gray or charcoal gray, and make sure that your uniform and equipment are packed and ready. Umpires should arrive at the game site at least 30 minutes and ideally 45 minutes before the scheduled start of the game. Umpires who plan early arrivals are best able to deal with traffic and other types of delays. After arriving and before taking the field, umpires should conduct a pregame meeting. Whether you have umpired with your partner dozens of times or this is your first ever game together, this meeting is important. For one thing, it helps you transition from your job, your travel, or whatever into umpiring mode. You want to review tag-up responsibilities and difficult play coverages. The NFHS Umpire Manual, beginning on page 12, lists items to discuss at this meeting. You may discuss situations in which you may need to deviate from the prescribed mechanics and communicate this deviation, but it is important that you do not alter the mechanics at this time. The umpire crew should complete its pregame preparations in time to arrive on the playing field 15 minutes before the scheduled starting time. Ideally, both umpires would take the field together. However, if one umpire is running late, the other should go to the field and begin pregame duties. Upon arriving at the field, the umpire crew should walk the perimeter of the field, inspect the field markings, and have the home school make corrections if needed. Attempt to introduce yourselves to the coaches if they are available, and enter your names and OHSAA officiating numbers into each scorebook. That will make it easier for the coaches to rate you. The umpires should attempt to identify the site manager, the individual responsible for game administration at this time. Sometimes, particularly at sub-varsity levels, the coach serves in this capacity. Umpire jurisdiction begins when one or both umpires arrive at the field. Umpires are empowered and responsible for enforcing rules and addressing rules violations at this time. So what happens when there is inclement weather in the area, or if the conditions of the playing field are in question? Up until the actual start of the game, the home team shall decide whether conditions are suitable for starting the game. If you have some concerns when you arrive and inspect the field, discuss these with the home team. If the visiting coach has some questions about playability, suggest that they discuss this with the home coach. Even though your jurisdiction began when you arrived at the field, this decision is up to the home team. Once the game has started, and once you have accepted the lineup cards and completed the plate meeting, you as the umpire are the sole judge regarding the playing conditions. In making this determination, ask yourself what has changed since the start of the game. You are also the judge as to whether the second game of a doubleheader is started. Prior to the start of the game, the plate umpire conducts a pregame conference with the head coaches. Ideally, this conference will take place 5 minutes before the scheduled start of the game. The head coach from each team is required to attend this meeting. If the head coach is busy, hold up the conference until he or she can attend. During this conference, there is to be no practice in live ball territory. To accomplish this, it is helpful if the conference is held before pregame ceremonies and introductions, before the home team has the opportunity to take the field for the game's start. The NFHS Umpire Manual has detailed information on the pregame conference. See page 13. The plate umpire should begin the conference by introducing himself or herself and the base umpire, and allow the coaches to introduce themselves. Ground rules should be covered. Some umpires ask the home coach to explain the ground rules, which helps open communications. Other umpires get this information from the home coach prior to the meeting and cover it themselves. Coaches should be asked to verify that their players are properly and legally equipped. Lineup cards are submitted by each coach and reviewed by the plate umpire. For ground rules, you want to make sure to cover areas that are in play or out of play, like the facing of the dugouts. Also, are there obstacles in the field of play that may create a dead ball, like rolled up tarps, hazards? At no time shall a ground rule supersede a book rule. For example, they can't say, our right field fence is so short that if a fly ball goes over the fence, it is a double or triple instead of a home run. With regard to the lineup cards, the plate umpire should confirm that they contain the first initial and last name of each starter, including jersey number and defensive position in the order that they will bat. The first initial, last name, and jersey number of each substitute. If the team intends to use the DP flex option, this must be a part of the starting lineup. Additional information on lineup cards can be found in Rule 3. This season, alternate procedures for lineup cards may be imposed by the OHSAA to thwart possible COVID spread. Please be attentive to these. The pregame conference should be informative, with a lot of required information exchanged, but at the same time be concise. Plate umpires should adopt a format to make sure that the proper information is exchanged. Extraneous conversation is not needed. It is a good idea for umpires to practice their pregame conference and obtain a comfort level. This is a chance to make a good first impression. This is a chance to set the tone for the game and in-game dealings with coaches. The game officially begins when the plate umpire declares, "Play ball." Now that you have gotten the game started, when is it over? The OHSAA has some unique rules for determining what is an official game. An extended explanation is found in the White Book, the OHSAA Guide for Softball Umpires. To help our understanding of these rules, it is important to know the definition of completed game and a suspended game. A completed game is one which ends with the winning team defined and does not need to be continued at any future date. This is the official game. As you will see, most of our games result in completed games. A suspended game is one that was stopped before a winner could be determined. Suspended games must be completed at a later date, picking up from the point that they were interrupted. A couple of other factors. There are no tie games in OHSAA softball. A winner must eventually be determined. Games are never restarted, regardless of how shortly into the contest that they were interrupted. They are picked up from the point of interruption, even if that point was with the first batter of the game. Here are examples of completed games. Our game is over and we have a completed game when the trailing team, the team that is behind, completes its turn at bat in the 7th inning. The game is over when the home team takes the lead in the 7th inning or any inning thereafter. The game is over when the trailing team is down by 10 or more runs and completes its bat in the 5th inning or any inning thereafter. Ohio's runs ahead rule or mercy rule is 10 runs after 5 innings, or 4.5 if it is the visiting team. When the trailing team has completed its turn at bat in the 5th inning, or any inning thereafter, and the game is halted by peril, weather, or darkness, the game is official and can end there. If the visiting team is trailing after batting in the 5th, game halted with the home team at bat in the 5th, game over, completed game. Home team trailing entering the top of the 6th, game halted, we have a complete game. A game can end with the mutual agreement of both coaches. 3rd inning, one team up by 30 runs. The coaches agree that it is probably best to end the game. Games which are halted before meeting the criteria on the previous slide are suspended games. Examples of a suspended game. Anytime a game is halted before the completion of 5 innings, or before 4.5 with the home team ahead, we have a suspended game. If the game is halted after the 5th inning and the score is tied, suspended game. If it becomes halted after 5 innings and the visiting team has tied or taken the lead in that inning, but the home team has not completed its turn at bat, we have a suspended game. As an example, the home team led 5-4 after 5 innings, but the visiting team went up 6-5 in the top of the 6th, and then the game was halted. The game is suspended. It is important to note that we never take runs off the board or revert to the previous inning as some other sports and rule books do. We also never restart a game. If a game is halted with the leadoff batter batting, it is suspended and picked up from there, never restarted. Suspended games must be completed. There are no ties in the OHSAA. To help our understanding, Let's take a look at some situations and determine whether we have a completed game or a suspended game. The game is halted before the completion of 5 innings or 4.5 innings if the home team is ahead. We have a suspended game. When the game is halted in any inning with the score tied, we have a suspended game. When the visiting team, trailing 6-4 entering the 6th inning, scores 3 runs to take the lead, but the game is halted before the home team completes its at-bat in the 6th inning, we have a suspended game. The home team takes a 6-4 lead in the bottom of the 5th inning. The game is halted in the top of the 6th inning while the visiting team is at bat and the score has not changed. We have a completed game. The home team enters the 6th inning with a 6-4 lead. The visiting team scores a run to make the score 6-5 and has the bases loaded when the game is halted. We have a completed game. The score will reflect all action to the point of interruption, so the final will be 6-5. The visiting team takes a 7-6 lead in the 6th inning. The home team scores 2 runs to regain the lead, 8-7, and the game is halted before the home team completes its turn at bat. We have a completed game. The OHSAA allows teams to play games of 5 innings and count as completed games. You might encounter this with teams playing doubleheaders or multiple games on the same date and site. To do this, the 2 teams must mutually agree to the 5-inning game before the game starts. If teams elected to play 5-inning games, the only change is that instead of 7 innings, the game is over at 5 innings with 1 team ahead. The 10 runs ahead rule and the point of interruption rule still occur at the 5th inning. Coaches can also mutually elect to end a game at any time. Whenever this occurs, whatever the score is at the point of this decision is the final score of the game. The game ends, and our responsibilities as umpires ends on the final play of the game. Umpires should hold their positions until the teams give up their opportunity to appeal. Normally, this occurs when the defensive players leave fair territory and the catcher leaves her position behind home plate. Umpire responsibility ends here, and umpires should depart the field. There is no need to supervise the handshake line or check and sign scorebooks. Any delay is inviting the opportunity for problems to arise. Umpires should leave the field together. If that departure requires them to use one of the dugouts, it is best to use the dugout of the winning team unless there was a problem during the game involving that team. The plate umpire should return any game balls to the home team. Umpires should make a habit of returning directly to their vehicles or dressing area. Don't stop to talk to spectators or react to any comments. Some of the worst confrontations begin with, "Hey, can I ask you a question?" Umpire jurisdiction for the game ends when the umpires leave the playing field, with an exception. If there was an ejection, the umpires, usually the plate umpire, must complete the ejection report found on the official page in your MyOHSAA account. Additionally, the umpire must communicate the ejection to the athletic director of the offending school. We suggest using both telephone and email. Any other unusual situations should be reported appropriately. Once the umpires are back at their vehicles or dressing area and away from others, the crew should meet and review the game just completed. Be sure to make note of the good things that you did in the game. Have an honest discussion of things that you could have done better. Consult your rule books to affirm any uncertainty that arose during the game. Successful umpiring is an ongoing learning process. Each game you work adds to that body of knowledge. Forfeits. Ohio deems that any game not started for any reason is no contest and never a forfeit. If a team cannot get to the game site, no contest. Incidentally, there is no specified waiting period for a visiting team. The start can be delayed for any length of time. Hopefully, the two coaches are in communication. Forfeits can occur for games that have started. Once the game has started and one of the teams cannot continue the game with at least 8 players, the game ends in a forfeit. Let's say a team started with 9 players, but the right fielder and center fielder collide going after a ball, and both were injured and could not play. We would have a forfeit. Also, if for any reason after the game has started, one of the teams elects not to continue to play, that game becomes a forfeit if the other coach does not mutually agree to end the game. There are no protests in OHSAA. Umpire decisions on the field are final. That means that we as umpires need to get the call and the application of the rule right. Consult your partner, consult your rule book. Remember, no matter who makes the call or renders the judgment, both umpires are responsible for knowing and correctly applying the rules. We thank you for your attentiveness to this presentation. We hope it helps you prepare for the 2021 season. Good luck and play ball!
Our challenge as umpires is to be in the right spot to make the right call. This mechanics presentation will identify that right spot and prescribe some aids helping you to get there. In our training, we have been taught the 4 elements of the play that we need to see in order to make the call: the ball, the base, the offensive player, and the defensive player. There are 3 factors that are key in helping umpires see these 4 elements and how they interact during the play. The first is the angle the umpire gets to see the play. The number to remember here is 90 degrees, but it differs from force plays and tag plays. On force plays, umpires want to take a position that puts them 90 degrees to the trajectory or path of the throw. On tag plays, umpires want to get to a position in which they are 90 degrees to the approach of the runner to the play. Another is distance from the play. We don't want to be too far away, but we also don't want to be too close. And again, there is a difference for force plays and tag plays. On force plays, umpires should be no closer than 18 feet to the play. On tag plays, the desired distance is 10 to 12 feet. Finally, there is a need to get an unobstructed view of the play, and that could involve moving from the prescribed or primary calling positions to a secondary calling position. Let's apply these principles to calls on the batter runner at first base. Since this is a type of force out, the base umpire wants to get into a calling position which is 90 degrees to the trajectory of the throw, but no more than 45 degrees from the foul line, and no closer than 18 feet from the play. There are some visuals the base umpire can use to get to the 90-degree angle to the throw. The first baseman, when receiving the throw, usually has her shoulders positioned perpendicular or 90 degrees to the throw. The base umpire can align with her shoulders. The base umpire should never be in an angle of more than 45 degrees from the foul line. By looking through the white portion of first base, the line from the front outside corner to the back inside corner of the base establishes 45 degrees. In establishing the proper distance, remember that the base umpire's starting position, with no runners on, is in foul territory walking the line. With the release of the pitch, a step or two is taken so that the umpire is pushing off at 18 feet from the base when the ball is put into play. At this point, the base umpire should be stepping towards second base. Staying behind an imaginary line between that 18-foot mark and the back corner of second base will keep the base umpire at the proper distance. Why is maintaining that 18-foot distance so important? It is a matter of keeping all the elements in your primary viewing area. Your primary viewing area is 30 degrees from your line of vision. Here is the umpire's view 12 feet from the play. When focusing on the base from 12 feet, you cannot see the glove and the ball within your primary viewing area without shifting your eyes up to the glove. Here we see the same problem with the umpire 15 feet from the base. At 18 feet, everything is within the primary viewing area to allow you to see and process all of the information at once without having to shift your eyes from the base to the glove. Here's an animated play of the base umpire's movement and positioning for a throw from the area of second base. Pushing off the left foot at the 18-foot mark, the umpire steps towards second base, moving to an angle of 90 degrees to the throw. This move involves taking 1 to 1.5 steps from the 18-foot mark. Here's an animated play of the base umpire's movement and positioning for a throw from the shortstop area. At 18 feet from first base, the umpire pushes off with the left foot and moves towards second base, taking a 90-degree angle to the throw. This move involves taking 3 to 3.5 steps from the starting position. The number of steps will vary with each umpire. Here is an animated play of the base umpire's movement and positioning for a throw from the third base area. At 18 feet, the umpire pushes off the left foot and moves towards second base. In this situation, the umpire will first try to align 90 degrees to the throw, but will not go beyond an angle of 45 degrees to the first base foul line. In this move, the umpire is taking 5 or 6 steps, again varying between umpires. On any ball thrown from within the red triangle area, the umpire will stop at the 45-degree angle from the foul line. This allows the best view of the play while giving the umpire the ability to move back to the foul line for a swipe tag if the first baseman is pulled off the base by the throw. On tag plays, there is a change in the umpire's primary calling position. Umpires want to strive to get into a position in which they are 90 degrees to the approach of the runner to the play, in front of or just short of the base that the runner is trying to reach. After achieving these two locations, close in on the play so that you are 10 to 12 feet from the play. In most cases, given the amount of ground umpires must cover in the two-umpire system, distance is a non-factor. However, in those cases where you can get closer to the play, staying 10 to 12 feet away allows you to see the whole play and observe for factors such as obstruction. This graphic shows the ideal calling position on a routine play involving the runner approaching the base. Notice how the umpire has obtained the 90-degree angle to the runner's approach to the base. And after establishing this angle, the umpire has closed the distance to 10 to 12 feet from the play. This positioning allows the umpire to see all of the elements of a play and look through the action of the attempted tag. Sometimes, due to the development of the play, it becomes necessary for the umpire to move from that primary calling position to a secondary calling position. When this happens, move is necessary to get an unobstructed view of the play. While moving, try to get and maintain a 90-degree angle to the play. This allows you to see those four necessary elements. Make sure to maintain the 10 to 12 foot calling distance. You do not want to choke your ability to see the whole play. In this graphic, the umpire, who is setting up in the primary calling position, sees that the actions of the fielder and the runner will move the play to the back of the base. To get the best view, the umpire moves to a secondary calling position. The umpire creates the 90-degree calling angle to the play while maintaining the 10 to 12 foot calling distance. Plate umpires face a similar challenge on plays at the plate. The primary calling position is on the first to home foul line extended near the back corner of the right-handed batter's box, which should give the umpire a 90-degree view to the runner's approach to the plate. A lot of times we see the runner take a path in which she goes toward the back of the plate to avoid the catcher's tag and to touch the plate as she goes by. In this situation, the plate umpire should adjust to a secondary position, moving around so that the umpire obtains the 90-degree angle to the play and to get the best view of the tag. Primary and secondary positioning applies when the ball is hit into the outfield, requiring the base umpire to come into the infield. This animation shows the base umpire attaining a 90-degree angle to the front of the base. In this play, the runner attempts to reach the backside of the base in her approach. Notice how the base umpire moves to a secondary position to get an unobstructed view of the play and obtain a 90-degree angle to the tag. With the proper angle and distance achieved, umpires must focus on the interaction of the four elements. On force outs, is the defense controlling the ball? Is the defense contacting the base? And is the offense contacting the base? On tag plays, is the defense contacting the offensive player with the ball? Is the defense maintaining control of the ball during the contact? And is the offensive player making contact and maintaining contact with the base? That is why umpires are trained to stop, see the whole play, and then make the call. To get to that proper primary calling position, it is important for the umpire to watch the fielder field the ball, move toward your initial calling position while keeping your eyes on the ball. With runners, move parallel to the baseline, keeping proper distance from the play. Let the ball turn your head and take you to the play. Square up to the play, then stop, see the play, then make the call. Here are some views which show the importance of positioning and calling angle. This first series shows the throw from third base to first base. In photo A, the umpire is just one step off the foul line into the field. In photo B of the same play, the umpire is aligned to a 90-degree angle to the throw. Is photo B the better view of this play? In this situation, there was a runner on first base and the base umpire has started in the field. The throw from the shortstop pulls the fielder off first base. Here is the view that the umpire got by not getting to a 90-degree angle to the throw, our primary calling position. Here is the view that the umpire got by moving to a 90-degree primary calling position. And here is the view that the umpire got by adjusting from the primary calling position to see the development of the play. Wouldn't you, as the umpire, like to have the view of this play in photo C? On this play, the throw is from the second base area and the umpire is starting on the foul line. Here is the view that the umpire got by staying in foul territory. Here is the view that the umpire got by moving into fair territory. Here the umpire is aligned at a 45-degree angle to the foul line in fair territory. And here is the view that the umpire got by moving to a position 90 degrees to the trajectory of the throw. In photo C, getting into the proper position allowed the umpire to see the possible pulled foot. Here's a pickoff attempt on a runner at third base. In this photo, the umpire moved directly to the base from the starting position. In this photo, the umpire moved parallel to the base line to get a better angle on the play. Notice the improvement that getting the proper angle makes in seeing the play. We hope this presentation was helpful to you in your preparations for the 2021 season. We wish you the best of luck in your games this year.